There was a time in my life when I had nothing but broken dreams, shattered hope, and a mind full of fear. And then I discovered something that transformed every crack in my soul into a pathway of power. Today I'm going to show you exactly how I went from broken to unbreakable. And if you stay with me till the end, I promise you this: you will never see your pain the same way again. I want you to imagine the worst day of your life. Now imagine waking up and living that same day over and over and over again. That was me. I had nothing, no money, no purpose, no faith. I was broken in mind, body, and spirit. But here's what I didn't know. Being broken wasn't my end. Indeed, it was my invitation. An invitation to become something greater, something unshakable. And if you've ever felt like you're not enough, if life has ever kicked you so hard you couldn't breathe, then what you're about to hear might just change everything. Pain is often misunderstood. Most people experience it and immediately label it as a curse, something to be avoided at all costs. But pain in its rawest form is not your enemy. It's not a final judgment on who you are or what you're capable of. It's a messenger, a teacher, a signal that something inside you needs to be acknowledged, adjusted, and transformed. Just like a warning light on the dashboard of a car, pain doesn't exist to paralyze you. It exists to alert you. It says, pay attention. Something important is happening here. Imagine a man who loses his job after 20 years of loyalty and hard work. He's devastated, crushed. He feels discarded and useless. But that pain, sharp and immediate, forces him to ask questions he never dared to before. Questions like, was I ever truly fulfilled? Was I doing what I was born to do? That job loss, which at first felt like a death sentence, becomes a turning point. He starts building a business around something he's always loved but ignored. A year later, he's making more money, has more freedom, and feels more alive than he ever did in that cubicle. The job didn't break him. The pain of losing it woke him up. That's the nature of pain when it's received with the right perspective. It's not always there to destroy. It's there to direct. But if you see pain as a sentence, you'll sit in your suffering like it's permanent, like it's all you'll ever know. You'll let it define your identity instead of refine your character. Most people don't realize that some of the world's most powerful individuals, leaders, creators, innovators, were sculpted by the very pain they once thought would destroy them. Their rock bottom wasn't their ruin, it was their rebirth. The problem is never the pain itself. The problem is the story you attach to it. When you treat pain as a life sentence, you stop moving. You stay stuck. But if you lean into it, ask what it's trying to teach you, let it burn away the lies you've believed about yourself, you emerge changed. Differs, sharper, wiser, stronger. Pain is not permanent, but the lessons it brings can be. Desire is not a weak, fleeting wish. It is the beginning of all transformation. It is the inner fire that precedes every act of greatness. Without desire, the mind remains idle, the heart remains dormant, and the spirit stays shackled. Real desire is not simply saying, I want a better life. It's saying, I must have it. I will have it. I will not be denied. There is a level of hunger so intense, so pure, that it bends reality around it. It makes the impossible possible. Because the individual carrying that desire refuses to stop, refuses to settle, refuses to shrink. Most people never reach that level because they've been conditioned to suppress their longings. They were told their dreams were unrealistic, impractical, too big. And so they traded desire for comfort and wonder why nothing changes. But nothing moves until desire takes root. Deep, obsessive, unshakable. Think of the young woman born into poverty, where every meal was uncertain and every day was a battle. She watches her parents struggle, watches opportunity pass them by, watches the world overlook their existence. One day, while standing in line for food assistance, she makes a quiet but thunderous decision within herself. This ends with me. That decision, fueled by raw, aching desire, not just to escape her reality, but to create something beautiful out of it, becomes the spark. She starts reading at night, saving every dollar, working jobs no one else wants. People around her call her obsessed, but she doesn't care. She studies while others sleep. She works while others complain. Her desire overrides exhaustion, rejection, and self-doubt. Years later, she launches a company that not only frees her financially, but allows her to employ others from the same neighborhoods that once trapped her. And when asked how she did it, She doesn't talk about luck or connections. She talks about that day in line, that moment of inner resolve, that flicker of fire in her chest that she refused to let die. That's the kind of desire that births power. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for ideal timing. It moves, it stretches, it defies odds. Without that desire, nothing would have begun. No plan would have mattered. No resource would have made a difference. Because resources without desire are wasted, but desire without resources finds a way anyway. Most people fail not because they aren't talented, not because they aren't capable, but because they leave themselves a back door, a plan B, a soft landing in case things get too hard. But true transformation begins the moment you make a decision so final, so absolute, that retreat is no longer an option. To burn the bridge behind you means you eliminate the way back to your former self. You remove the escape hatch. You destroy the exit route. You force yourself to move forward because you no longer give yourself anywhere else to go. That's not recklessness. That's commitment in its purest form. People who burn the bridge are the ones who win, not because they had the best strategy, but because they had no choice but to win. They created a do-or-die scenario and bet everything on themselves. That level of resolve awakens a level of strength and clarity that casual commitment will never touch. Picture the man who has worked a soul-numbing job for 10 years. Every morning he wakes up with a sinking feeling in his chest, knowing he's living far below his potential. He has a dream. Maybe it's to start a business, write a book, or build something from scratch. But every time he gets close to taking action, he steps back. He tells himself he'll do it when the time is right, or once he saves enough, or after things settle down, but things never settle. Time keeps passing, comfort becomes a coffin, until one day, after yet another meeting where his ideas are ignored, he feels something snap. That night, he doesn't just fantasize about change, he drafts his resignation letter. He doesn't just talk about his dream, he commits to it, financially, emotionally, publicly. He gives notice, tells everyone, and walks out the office door without a fallback plan. People around him call him foolish, irresponsible. But for the first time in a decade, he feels alive. Burning the bridge was the only way he could stop negotiating with fear. Because as long as that bridge stood, he always had a way back to mediocrity. But once it was gone, there was only forward. And in that forward space, in that fire of pressure and purpose, he discovers abilities he never knew he had. He learns faster, works harder, thinks clearer. The stakes sharpen his instincts. The hunger accelerates his growth. What looked like madness from the outside was actually the moment he became unshakably serious. When the bridge behind you is gone, you stop hesitating. You stop looking over your shoulder. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what must I do to win? Faith and focus are the twin engines that carry the human spirit through storms that would otherwise destroy it. Faith is not mere hope or passive optimism. It is a deep, unshakable inner certainty that what you are pursuing is already yours, even if the world hasn't caught up yet. It is the refusal to believe the voice of fear, the noise of doubt, or the judgment of others. But faith alone, without focus, becomes scattered energy. Focus is what channels that belief into tangible daily action. It's what keeps you locked in on the goal while distractions scream for your attention. Together, faith and focus create something rare. A mind that is immune to chaos, a heart that is steady under pressure, and a person who becomes unbreakable, not because they haven't faced adversity, but because adversity could not pull them off course. You don't develop this kind of internal power by accident. You develop it by choosing to believe in your vision, even when there's no evidence it's working, and by disciplining your mind to hold that vision with laser precision while the rest of the world throws noise at you. Imagine an athlete who is told from a young age that she'll never make it professionally. She's undersized, she's not from the right training background, she doesn't have the resources others have. Coaches overlook her, scouts ignore her, and even her own teammates doubt her. But she has two things they can't measure on paper: faith that her dream is real and focus that never wavers. Every morning before sunrise she trains, not just physically, but mentally. She visualizes success. She rewires her internal dialogue. She watches film, sharpens her weaknesses, and sacrifices comforts most wouldn't dare to lose. While others scroll their phones, she studies her craft. While others party, she prepares. She doesn't need applause. Her belief is loud enough. And because her focus is absolute, she doesn't deviate from the mission. Injuries come, seasons end, setbacks happen, but none of it pulls her off track. That faith holds her steady when the scoreboard doesn't. That focus keeps her building when no one's watching. Eventually, the world is forced to notice. She breaks records, not because she was always the most naturally gifted, but because she cultivated the most indestructible mindset. The power was never in her physical body. It was in her unwavering belief and relentless concentration. Faith and focus turned her rejection into resilience and her effort into excellence. Every setback, no matter how devastating it feels in the moment, contains within it a hidden advantage, a lesson, a redirection, a refinement that would have never occurred without the struggle. The problem is, most people are so consumed by the pain of the fall that they miss the gift buried inside it. Setbacks strip away illusions. They remove the false sense of control and comfort that often blinds us to our greater potential. When you fail, when you lose, when you're brought to your knees, you're forced to confront what really matters. You're forced to ask deeper questions. You start seeing the flaws in your old patterns, the limits in your thinking, the cracks in your foundation. And that awareness becomes a weapon. That realization becomes leverage. What looked like a curse was actually course correction. What felt like punishment was preparation. But none of that is revealed at the surface. You have to go digging. You have to sit in the discomfort long enough to extract the advantage hidden beneath the ashes. Picture an entrepreneur who spends years building a startup, pouring every ounce of energy, time, and money into it, only for it to collapse within months of launching. He loses his savings. Investors pull out. Friends distance themselves. He feels humiliated, defeated, like everything he touched is turned to dust. But once the noise fades, once the panic settles, he starts to see things more clearly. He realizes that his original business model was flawed, that he was chasing trends instead of solving real problems, that he hired based on convenience, not competence. The failure, painful as it was, exposed what success would have hidden. And because of that, the next time he builds differently, smarter, stronger, with clarity and precision. That first failure becomes the blueprint for the success that comes after it. He meets a new partner through someone he connected with during the collapse. He gets funding from someone who admired how he handled adversity. The doors that opened were ones he never would have knocked on if he hadn't first been thrown off track. His setback wasn't a dead end, it was a disguised opportunity. But he would have never seen it that way if he had allowed the pain to blind him. Instead, he mined that pain for wisdom. He turned embarrassment into education. That's the secret advantage of setbacks. They reveal what comfort hides. They sharpen you in ways that success never will. They position you to win, not in spite of the struggle, but because of it. Your mind is the command center of your entire life. Every decision you make, every reaction you have, every goal you chase or abandon, all of it begins with thought. If you don't master your mind will be mastered by everything else. Fear, comparison, doubt, distractions, scarcity. You'll be pulled in every direction by forces that don't care about your purpose. You'll become a prisoner of circumstance, reacting to life instead of directing it. Mastering your mind means becoming intensely aware of the thoughts you allow to live there. It means understanding that not every belief you carry is true, and not every emotion deserves a seat at the table. Most people never question the voice in their head. They let it run wild. They let it dictate their limits, feed their insecurities, sabotage their progress. But the truth is, you can rewire your thinking. You can train your mind just like you train a muscle, through repetition, discipline, and conscious effort. The difference between a person who rises and one who breaks often comes down to one thing: the way they talk to themselves when no one else is listening. Take the story of a man who lost everything in the span of a year: his job, his home, his marriage. At first he spiraled. Depression took hold. He blamed the economy, his ex, his boss. Circumstances had mastered him. He was reacting to life like a leaf in the wind, directionless and defeated. But in the stillness of one particularly low morning, he realized something. The external chaos was real, but it was his internal narrative that was keeping him paralyzed. So he began doing something radical. He started writing affirmations on sticky notes and putting them on his bathroom mirror. He read books that challenged his mindset. He stopped speaking to people who kept him locked in victimhood. Every morning he declared who he wanted to become, even when he didn't believe it yet. Over time, those declarations turned into decisions. Those decisions turned into habits. His mind began to change. And as it did, so did his life. He started a new career, not because the circumstances changed, but because he changed. He became a man who didn't just survive the storm, he rewired himself to lead through it. The chaos was the same, but now he stood above it instead of beneath it. Because once you master your mind, you realize that nothing outside of you holds the power to define you. You stop giving away control to conditions, people, or the past. You become deliberate, intentional, powerful, not because you never fall, but because you never let your thoughts keep you down for long. You were never meant to stay broken. You were meant to be reforged like steel in the fire, burned, bent, beaten, until you rise stronger than anything that tried to destroy you. Remember, the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs warriors forged in pain, driven by purpose, and armed with unshakable belief. Be that. Become unbreakable.